All right, everybody. Hello. How are you doing? We have back with us again today my personal spiritual life coach, Kelly Lunt. Okay, going to talk about probably a couple of new things today. The last video got an incredibly positive response, which is good. I like that. Did everything go okay with you there?
Yeah, and the breakthrough calls I'm having with people, it shows that you truly have a following that's like ready to grow, ready to expand, and ready to call in an awesome life. So it was so cool to get on the phone with all of you that I have so far. Yeah. Thank
Cool.
thank you for helping me or letting me help more people. This is awesome, Rich. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's good to hear. It's good to hear when I have feedback that I'm helping. Because like I said, for me, my number one priority personally, number one is helping in any way, shape, form, or fashion to awaken and help transform people. The world, humanity. Then I worry about the business aspects of things and all that other good stuff. But if I'm not helping in some way transform and awaken people, that I'm not doing my job. So I very much relate to that. So
Yeah.
anyway, let's go ahead and talk about this new you mentioned in our last video. It's not your parents' fault. What exactly do you mean by that?
Okay, so we're gonna touch a little bit up on what we talked about in our last video, and that was sometimes there comes phenomenal growth from doing shadow work, inner child work, essentially where you put your focus on the past and heal it. Sometimes people can do that shadow work, clear a block, do some chakra work, and then once they clear the block, they get instant results. At some point, when people will do that work, they're not getting results anymore. And that's because they need to get their focus out of the past and into the new. So I'm going to give a pretty graphic example right now, guys. Let's say you were born into a crazy environment, abusive, and when you were like maybe 5, you spoke up for yourself the first time and was like, no, I want this. And say it's graphic, sorry guys. Say your dad like punched you in the face. And that person at the time kind of like froze in fear. Fair enough, right? It's a 5-year-old. Um, some emotions were repressed and suppressed because it wasn't safe to speak up to daddy at that point. So doing an inner child meditation for that the first time, maybe 2 times, will help so much. Because you'll release that fear of men, you'll release the fear of authority figures, you'll release that. A lot of people would call this a throat chakra. I can't speak up for myself. I wonder why. It's like, you got decked in the face when you were younger. Like, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the inner child going to the past like helps with the releasing of those suppressed emotions because those emotions are manifesting in new. But once you go back and release those emotions and help that part of you kind of let go of the fear, you have to recognize that there's skill sets. For those of you who like to Google, it's called developmental psychology, and there's a lot of spirituality behind it too, but I just want to give some people some things they can go Google. You were missing out. And so one prime example of like when you were 2, if you had a parent who parentified you, couldn't really meet your needs, and they didn't teach you that like it's okay for you to have your own emotions and feelings, instead they taught you you better match mine, then you have to meet that inner child, release the inner child, but you also have to take time developing the new skill that you just flat out missed out on. So does that kind of make a little bit more sense of like when to stop the shadow work, when to recognize it's not an old memory to heal, because you can always get stuck in the past. You can always go back and talk to that inner child who was hit by dad, and at some point they're just going to be it's healed, but it needs the new.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. And like I said, actually, that right there is one of the biggest things that I've personally been working on because I mean, I've touched on things about my own personal story before, but it does include childhood abuse and being taken away from my parents. I mean, I have a very, very dark story behind me that, don't get me wrong, I love my story. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world because it brought me here. But yeah. So I do very much relate, and that makes very good sense. Very good sense. Something I still work on to this day.
You know,
So
one little fun exercise that just popped in my head, Rich, was let's see, do you want to do it with me? Are you game?
yeah, sure. What's up?
Okay, go ahead and clasp your hands together.
Okay.
Notice which thumb and which pointer finger's on top.
Okay.
Go ahead and unclasp and clasp, but make sure the other side's on top.
Okay.
How does it feel in your hands?
How does it feel?
Yeah, like is it a little weird, a little?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So keep it there for like 2 minutes, Rich, or a little bit. So guys, the inner child cleans up the old. When you're developing a new skill set, because many people, Rich, will lose hope here. They'll be like, okay, I just need to speak up for myself. And the very first time they do it, they're like, well, I couldn't do it. I froze. It must be my throat chakra's blocked. It's a new skill. And like your hands, right? Keep yours clasped. When you had them this way, this part of your fingers were sending signals to the brain. Now that you switch it, an entirely different part of your skin's being touched, right?
Mm-hmm.
So new signals are getting sent to your brain. So of course, when you switch it, especially since this is against your norm, in the beginning, it's going to feel wobbly. It's going to feel just, it's new. But now, like now that you've been holding it for a little bit, Rich, how does it feel?
It's yeah, it feels more normal now.
Yeah. Okay. So feel it. Go ahead. You can let go of your hands at any time now.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. That stuff is so cool, dude.
Yeah, right. So that was just your hands, right? So now imagine when you're developing a new skill set of speaking up for yourself. You have to like see yourself in a whole new way. You have to see the world in a whole new way. You have to speak about yourself in a whole new way. So there's a lot more rewiring. So it's just guys, when you are taking time to develop a new skill set, just remind yourself, it's just a new sensation. Of course, it's not part of my norm yet. I haven't been doing it a lot. I hope that'll help explain it. Sometimes even when you're developing a new skill set, that there can be a little wobble and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, one of the things that like I see a lot in people that come to me for personal readings, in my comment section, and one thing that I've kind of been struggling working with people, honestly, is people who like refuse to put themselves first. You know, like it's almost like they think that service to others means that they have to completely neglect themselves altogether. You know, what would you have to say to those people personally?
Such a good question, Rich. And if you're watching this and that is your struggle too, know that it's a lot of people's struggle, but it's actually a pretty simple and easy switch. So I want to give you guys a little bit of understanding that just comes from when you were called parentified. You guys can Google that if you want. Parentified, F-I-E-D, parentified. It's where when you were younger, you had to take care of your adult, your human, your parents, excuse me. But you had to. And guys, think about it. Our previous generations, they were going through world wars. They were going through the Great Depression. They in turn, and the Industrial Revolution, even mass consciousness, there's lingerings of that being like healed up. They were, like grandparents who came out of the Great Depression, they were more focused on, whoa, I have a baby, I need to feed it. Let me go work for, the man, the corporate world. Hey, I'm feeding you and put a roof over your head. I'm doing a good job. They didn't get to teach you the emotions. So I want to let you guys know that that's okay. So in terms of your parents and your grandparents' emotional development, good degree of chance that it was hindered just because of what was going on at the world at the time. So they couldn't fully be there for you emotionally. You were parentified. You had to take care of them. So people who have a hard time putting themselves first at the expense, it's when you were 2, guys. So now we're getting into the new that you have to develop. You can absolutely go back to all the inner children's of, oh yeah, mom took me popcorn, couldn't afford it. You can do that. When you're 2, though, you're learning what's called the self-concepts. Me, you, we, they. If you don't learn a self-concept of me, you will always put others first because you don't understand that you exist. You don't understand that you can have your own thoughts, your own opinions that are different than others. And I took notes on this because this came up for a lot of the people on the calls, Rich. This is where if you're an adult and you're getting kicked off of inheritances, like other people are taking it in the family, or if you feel like you're taking on too much, you just like feel so exhausted, people need so much. Here's another good one, Rich. If you feel like you can't outgrow mass consciousness. So if you're like, oh, but the pandemic, no one's having a good time right now, you don't have a self-concept of me developed.
Mm-hmm.
You're letting everyone else's struggle become your own. Or that's even relates to, oh, I can't like have it that easy. I can't earn that much money. My parents, like, that's not what they taught me. Or the big one, if you identify as an empath, I just feel their energy so much. Even when I'm not around them, I feel their pain. And then it gets stuck in the, well, how can I tell that man I don't like him? I could feel his pain and that he's alone. Okay, so Rich, all that is you are so trained from the young age because you're parentified, your focus and law of attraction, you know this, if you guys have been following Rich, you guys know this, what you focus on, you get. So from the young age, you had to take care of others first so that your needs could get met. You have I take care of others first so their needs could get met. I want to take care of my need first. Oh my God, this feels wobbly. This feels uncomfortable. I'm not doing it. That's all that's going on. So let me make sure we covered everything. Oh, if you feel judged, if you feel an inner pull when other people like have help, you feel an intrinsic, I can help, the go-giver. It's just all signs that you don't have the self-concept of me developed. And what that would have looked like when you were younger, because again, you don't have the ability to process your emotions until about the age of 3. But you need someone who can, I can see that you're angry. I could see that you don't want to go to the grocery store with me, but how do we make this so that you can go? Because mommy can't leave you alone. Mom can't leave you here alone. So I see that you don't want to go, because that's a mom acknowledging that you exist and that your emotions matter. It's okay for you to be angry. It's okay for you to not want to go with me to the grocery store, but you got to go. So how do we make this more enjoyable for you? If you didn't have a parent who could do that for you, you grew up thinking you don't exist. You view yourself as an extension of others, codependent, anyone. And guys, if this is something that you want to develop, the ability to speak up for yourself, the ability to ask for the pay raise, the ability to say no, and well, in relationship, but in a way that's loving to you and them, this is a skill that I could teach you so easy. Apply for that breakthrough session. Let's get on the phone and I could show you how to develop this. Because like one example, Rich, is if they take the time to go through that wobble and develop the new, they'll go from, instead of having to be, I have to be strong and resilient and say no to them. Once you develop that self-concept of me, which again, I could show you guys how to do that if we were on a call, it would be your sense of well-being is your number one priority. And it's not a selfish, no, you got to solve your own problem. It's I'd love to help you. Complexity of emotion. I could see that you need help right now and I'd love to help you. I just, I'm so exhausted from my work right now that I wouldn't be able to give it the appropriate amount of attention that it deserves. So can I maybe help you with that on Sunday? Or it would even be I look forward to seeing how you solve that. I wish it could be me, but you'll say it like it's a duh instead of I'm being strong, or like, guys, I told my mom no today. I told my boss no, I wouldn't work free overtime. Like, because we're not celebrating that. That should be a duh. Does that make a little more sense, Rich?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, did you want to say something? If not, I just came up with like a fun little exercise I could give your people.
No, the floor is basically yours pretty much for the most part.
Okay, and this is all stuff that like came up on the calls, guys. So the people who have gotten on a call with me, like, thank you for being so vulnerable and open and honest. This is now getting to like help more people. One good way, if you're having a little bit of trouble of how do I just switch over into the new, because right, if it's a new concept for you, how do you do it? Well, Rich and Kelly are here to like show you how. I'm gonna call this like the mom and dad healing exercise. And this is where I want you to think about your situation. And then think, if I had a divine masculine father, what would he do for me right now? He would say no to the other person. He would speak up for me. He would make sure I'm getting my pay. He would tell me to say no to them. He would walk me to the bus stop. He would probably provide some sort of protection, some sort of security, some sort of, I can take a breath because someone else is looking out for my safety. Make that list. And what would you want your mom to do? If I had an ideal, I'm waving a magic wand right now. If I had an ideal, divine, feminine mom, well, she would be hugging me right now, because a lot of you were in self-judgment on the phone calls. So it would look like, well, I wouldn't want my mom to say I'm not doing good enough, right? Because that's what a lot of people were doing on the phone calls. I would want my mom to hug me and say, it's okay, baby girl, you're doing enough. Hey, that was your first time. Good job for getting out there. Let's go again. Well, my mom would see that I need some comfort, so she'd maybe make me my favorite food. So I want you guys to make that list and let it be as exhaustive as you want. That's now your to-do list. That's now your, oh, I would want my mom to tell me it's okay. Like, okay, I'm going to stop being hard on myself, telling me I should have known better. I should have known to do that. Okay, it was my first time. I'm going to get better next time. So that's one good way to start thinking about the new. I hope that helped.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, unless you had anything else to say, did you want to go on about anything else, or?
Yeah, I think there was one more that came up in a lot of the phone calls that I'd like to talk about in terms of like the new skill. And that was, we talked about the self-concept at the age of 2. So that's where your mom would like look down at you and you're like screaming or crying, whatever. You're a 2-year-old. You don't even have the brain to like process your emotions or anything yet. Where she could look at you and go, it's okay for you to have a different emotion than me. It's okay for you to feel differently or have a different opinion about me. For those of you who your parents are like attacking you for your political difference, they don't have this skill set either. So there's also the self-concept of they. And this is the big one for people pleasers. So the self-concept of me is I exist. I can have different emotions, different thoughts than different people. It's okay for me to voice them. It's okay for me to sometimes give, sometimes not give. It's okay for me. It's like, hey, I'm not being paid fair market value. What can we do to close that gap? Instead of the hoorah, pepping yourself up, which is good if that's what you got to do. I got a lot of pay raises that way too when I was younger. But if you just have the self-concept of me, when you're first taking the job, it's going to be like, wow, I want this job, but why isn't that fair market value? So the other one is the self-concept of they. And this is a big one for people who overgive. Because that concept is where you see yourself whole and complete. So you need the self-concept of me first, but it's where they are figuring it out. It's for people who like, if you feel drained, if you ever feel drained, like, oh, that's so much work to do that. Or if you ever feel like other people's pain more than yours, your focus is on them and what they need so that they could then take care of you instead of allowing yourself to go through the wobble of let me put myself on my focus first. What would an ideal mom, ideal dad do for me? Now let me do those things for myself. So the self-concept of they is like if you're saying I can handle it, they can't. If you give too much in a love relationship, you're like the problem solver. Or if you ever, I need motivation, I need laziness. No, you're taking on too much and you're beating yourselves up. And so if you think you might be on a downward spiral too, that's the self-concept of they that's not formed. And that's where you see yourself as here's me, here's my needs, here's my immediate social circle, your brothers, whoever your immediate social circle is, and recognizing that there are people out of your family structure. And it's you seeing them as whole and complete, and they can solve it no matter what pain they're in. Because I promise you guys, if you are supposed to be the one giving, like these breakthrough calls I'm offering, they got to be by application only now. There was a much bigger demand than I thought there would be. It's recognizing I see them as whole and complete. When there's ever one that I like see it glow when I'm looking at the sheet, I'm like, I'm supposed to talk to them. So you're moving towards a source of inspiration. If you feel motivated, that's a sign you don't have the self-concept of they. If you're moving towards inspired, that's when you're supposed to help them. And you only give when you feel that inspired. You only give when you feel that overflow. Kind of, I know Rich talks about this a lot in his videos. It's the whole, when you're on a plane, you put your mask on first and then your child's. So that's what I mean, like by the new, like sometimes you just have to admit, okay, I've cleaned up the past. It's now time to, what do I now need? And if that's something, if this resonated with you at all and you are ready for your breakthrough, go ahead, apply for a session. And if I think I could add any value to your guys' lives, I'm going to reach out with a scheduling calendar so that we can get it going, because I want you guys to be thriving. You know, Rich wants you guys thriving too. That's why he makes this video with so much love and so much advice for you guys. And I'm like, I'm just honored that I get to be the one to offer a little more support to them, Rich. So I don't know, did all that make sense? Did it?
Yes. And I mean, like I said, it's helping me too. I mean, it's not just my audience. Like I'm always a student. Like even when I'm teaching, even when I'm helping, I'm always learning. So absolutely, absolutely. So anyway, though, I wanted to say thank you for coming on and hollering at the people. You know, it's always good to have somebody on, like a guest, to you know, share something new, a new perspective, especially one that's really helpful. You know, maybe like a perspective that I can't quite get out there, that maybe I'm really good at looking at it from this angle, but there's other people who don't really need that angle. They need this other missing piece, and that's where, you know, people like you come in. You know, so. Yeah. Anyway, though, y'all don't forget to look in the description box of the video and in the comment section for a link to apply for the breakthrough calls. And other than that, though, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We'll see y'all sometime between now and the rest of all eternity. Y'all have a good day.